Alright family, listen close, because what just detonated inside the Max B situation is bigger than a headline, bigger than an interview clip, and honestly bigger than half the stuff that's been rattling around hip-hop this whole year. Max B, the Harlem legend who did 16 to 18 years behind the wall, the one who came home with 2 Billboard #1 records already stacked in his corner, the one everybody in the culture stood up and applauded when the gates finally cracked open for him. Max B just walked onto Jason Lee's platform and dropped a bomb so loud you could hear it echo from Rikers all the way to Southside Jamaica, Queens. And the moment Vinnie caught wind of it, Vinnie didn't just react. Vinnie went nuclear. Vinnie went scorched earth, and he pulled China right along with him into the fire. Roll the tape, because you are not ready for what Max B admitted about his private phone line to Sean Diddy Combs, and you are extra not ready for what Vinnie said back. Now, in case you missed the memo, Max B has been mighty quiet since the homecoming glow started to fade. That first 90-day stretch when he stepped out was pure sunshine. Everybody wanted a piece of Max B. Everybody wanted a photo with Max B. Everybody wanted a verse from Max B. The whole industry was pulling up to Harlem to touch the wave god, because 16 years is not a jail bid. 16 years is a lifetime. 16 years is a whole generation of babies born, grown, and rolling their own bones by the time you come home. And Max B came home to a world that didn't recognize him and a hip-hop landscape that had rewritten itself twice over. So when the shine was hot, Max B rode that wave. 2 Billboard #1s. Icy chains. Family reunions. Kids on his shoulders. Smiling in every frame. It looked like the perfect second act. It looked like redemption in real time. It looked like every second chance in hip-hop documentary the culture has ever tried and failed to film. But watch what happens next, because Vinnie is the first man in the culture willing to say out loud what a lot of insiders have been whispering behind the scenes. Max B has gone quiet. Not resting quiet. Not cooking in the studio quiet. Vinnie means invisible quiet. Vinnie means the kind of quiet where you scroll past a Max B post and you don't even stop to double tap. Vinnie means the kind of quiet where the algorithm itself stopped feeding you his content because your thumb kept scrolling. And when a man like Vinnie, a man who has been in the trenches with Max B, a man who was managed by Ty Black, the exact same right-hand man who kept Max B connected to the outside world through the entire bid, when that man tells you the shine is gone, you don't argue. You listen, because Vinnie was there. Vinnie ran shows. Vinnie ran movement. Vinnie was in the room when Ty Black kept the Max B legend alive by being the singular voice piping in and out of the federal system every single day for over a decade and a half. And that is exactly why the Max B interview on Jason Lee's platform hit Vinnie like a slap across the face. Because Max B didn't just do a normal press run. Max B sat down across from the one host in the culture who, and Vinnie was very careful to say allegedly, and I'll be very careful to say allegedly too, the one host in the culture who has a certain reputation, a certain flavor of controversy attached to his name that a lot of the street code brothers refuse to publicly co-sign. Max B could have gone to any platform. Max B could have gone to Breakfast Club. Max B could have gone to Drink Champs. Max B could have gone to Angie Martinez. Max B could have gone straight to Complex. But Max B, a man who did 18 years in a federal cage, chose Jason Lee. And Vinnie, sitting there in tropical weather with the thunder rolling in the background, could not shake the feeling that this was a publicity stunt engineered for shock value. Because what Max B said next, what Max B admitted on camera to a live audience, Vinnie had to hit rewind. Vinnie had to hit rewind twice. Because he genuinely could not believe the words that came out of a Harlem legend's mouth on public record. Here it is, unedited, unfiltered, delivered straight from Max B's own lips. Max B said he speaks to Sean Diddy Combs on the phone. Regularly. Not once. Not a random check-in. Regularly. And when Diddy comes home, whenever that day arrives, and the federal calendar has some very sharp opinions about when that day might be, Max B and his people will be there at the gate to pick him up. I don't care what nobody say. That was the line. Those were the exact syllables. Max B, a man who just watched 16 years of his own life evaporate inside a federal facility, publicly aligned himself with Sean Combs at the exact moment the entire culture is trying to figure out how to draw the line between loyalty and lunacy. And Vinnie? Vinnie snapped. Vinnie went from tropical weather calm to Category 5 in the span of one sentence. And if you were sitting in his chair watching a legend torch his own coronation on live camera, you would snap too. Now flip the page with me for a second, because to understand why Vinnie snapped, you have to understand what Sean Combs is currently accused of. And I'm not going to sit here and relitigate the entire federal case in front of you, because we've all seen the coverage, we've all read the filings, we've all watched the tapes leak, we've all watched the depositions get unsealed. What I will tell you is this. The accusations attached to Sean Combs are not the kind of accusations you sweep under a Persian rug and forget about. The accusations attached to Sean Combs are the kind of accusations that historically make an entire generation of rappers pretend they never took a Ciroc gift bag at a white party. The accusations attached to Sean Combs are the kind of accusations that cost you your Rolodex, your endorsements, your legacy, and, if certain federal witnesses are to be believed, your freedom for the rest of your natural life. And Max B, who just got his own freedom back after nearly 2 decades, is on record saying Diddy is his phone friend and his gate day ride? Vinnie was blunter than blunt. Vinnie called it weird. Vinnie said, with all due respect and all the Harlem love in his heart, that right now, in the year of our Lord 2026, is not the moment to be publicly welcoming Sean Combs back into the fold. Not for Max B. Not for anybody. Because the second you put your name on that gate day picture, you have inherited every single unresolved case attached to the man walking out of that federal door. And that is the exact moment where Vinnie leaned in and said something that a lot of people in the culture have been terrified to say out loud. Certain conversations you keep to yourself. Certain conversations you don't broadcast on a podcast run by a man who reposts every celebrity Instagram story with commentary and an emoji. Watch what happens next, because Vinnie was not finished. Vinnie was still warming the engine up. Because there is another shoe. There is always another shoe. And this second shoe is not a Balenciaga. This second shoe has laces made of straight-up dynamite. Because Max B, the same Max B who just co-signed Sean Combs from a phone line, also admitted in the exact same interview, on the exact same platform, that when he first linked with Rick Ross after coming home, Ross handed him a stack of hundreds. Like it was nothing. Like it was a piece of gum. Like a man who just did 16 behind the wall was worth the price of a designer belt in cash on the countertop. And Vinnie? Vinnie caught that too. Vinnie noticed. Vinnie noticed loud. Because in Vinnie's world, and if you've spent even a week in the culture, you know this. Nobody just hands a homecoming rapper a stack of hundreds without a business proposition on the other side of it. Nobody. Not Ross. Not anybody. That is not a gift. That is a receipt. That is a paper trail. That is a soft power handshake dressed up as a homecoming present. That is a chess move disguised as a hug on a Miami sidewalk. And Vinnie's exact concern? Vinnie was thinking about the kids. Vinnie was thinking about Max B's kids. Vinnie was thinking about a man who missed 16 birthdays, 16 graduations, 16 Christmas mornings, 16 first steps, and last hugs, and everything in between. And a man in that position, a man who is trying to rebuild 18 years of vanished life all at once, should not be walking around collecting envelope handshakes from the wrong end of a beef he had zero involvement in. Because the second you take that envelope, homie, you are in the beef. You didn't ask to be in the beef. You didn't sign up for the beef. But you are in the beef. And the beef, in this case, has a name. And that name is Curtis James Jackson III. And the loyalty code Curtis Jackson operates under is not a suggestion. It is not a guideline. It is not a vibe. It is a religion. It is a doctrine. Drop your verdict down below where the receipts live, because here comes the part that made Vinnie's temperature spike from lukewarm to volcanic. Vinnie reminded China, and China, God bless China, was trying to defend Max B, was trying to make the case that a man who did 18 years upstate should be granted a little grace when he comes home. Vinnie reminded China that when Max B was in that federal facility with the door locked from the outside, only one rapper of true billionaire-adjacent stature threw the man a lifeline. Only one. And that rapper's name is not Sean Combs. That rapper's name is not William Roberts, better known as Rick Ross. That rapper's name is 50 Cent. Curtis Jackson personally threw Max B a bone at the earliest and most fragile stretch of that homecoming. Because 50 Cent respects a man who ate 18 years of federal food and came home still walking upright. And now, The same Max B who received the 50 Cent olive branch has publicly aligned himself with two of the most well-known 50 Cent antagonists in the entire rap ecosystem, Diddy on one side, Ross on the other. In one interview, on camera, under studio lights, on Jason Lee's platform, you cannot make this stuff up. You genuinely cannot script this stuff. And Vinnie knew immediately what the industry was about to look like, because Vinnie has watched 50 Cent operate for a quarter century. Vinnie knows the pattern. Vinnie knows the code. Vinnie knows that the moment you deal with 50 Cent's enemies, whether that dealing is a phone call, a stack of hundreds, a features run, a podcast appearance, or a gate day photo op, you have entered a specific category of person in Curtis Jackson's Rolodex. And that category is called enemy. There is no gray zone. There is no we're just cool. There is no it's just business. 50 Cent has said this himself, on record, in interviews stretching back to 2003. If you side with somebody who is against the unit, you are against the unit. It doesn't matter if you did 18 years. It doesn't matter if you're a Harlem legend. It doesn't matter if your name is Max B. The math does not bend for celebrity. The math does not bend for tenure. The math does not bend for a sob story. The math is the math. And Max B just wrote himself into the wrong column of the ledger, in permanent ink, on a page 50 Cent turns to every single morning before he even pours his coffee. Now China, and I love China, and Vinnie loves China, but China was pushing back hard. China tried to argue that whatever went on in the industry before Max B went in has nothing to do with Max B now. China's exact position. The man was gone for 18 years. The man missed the entire streaming era. The man missed the entire beef cycle. The man missed the Versus era. The man missed the podcast era. The man missed everything. Why should he inherit the emotional baggage of feuds that were happening while he was learning to pronounce his own kids' names through a plexiglass phone? And on the surface, that argument holds water. That argument is even sympathetic. That argument might get Max B a pass in a fair and reasonable court of hip-hop opinion. But watch what happens next, because Vinnie shut that argument down with 2 syllables. Vinnie said, "You're new. You're new, homie. You just got here. You just landed. You don't get to walk off the federal bus and immediately start co-signing the 2 loudest antagonists a certified culture mover has publicly named as personal ops. Because when you do that on camera, on Jason Lee's platform, with a stack of Rick Ross hundreds already in your pocket and a Sean Combs phone line already glowing in your call log, you are not confused. You are not naive. You are choosing. And Vinnie was very, very clear that whatever Max B is choosing, the choice comes with a bill. And the bill is going to be delivered in a currency that Max B may not be ready to spend. In case you missed the memo, this is not a normal beef. This is a loyalty code beef. This is the kind of beef that leaks into your streaming numbers, your feature budget, your endorsement deals, your podcast bookings, your gate access at every major festival. And, because this is 50 Cent we're talking about, your star's television schedule, your G-Unit book imprint reach, your F&N vodka placement, your Branson bourbon distribution, your Sire Spirits shelf position at every Total Wine in America. When Curtis Jackson decides you are an enemy, the enemy classification does not stay in the recording studio. The enemy classification metastasizes into every corner of the empire. And the empire is enormous. The empire is tectonic. And Max B just tapped it on the shoulder. Now, and this is the part where I need you to lean in, because this is the moment Vinnie went from analyst to prophet. Vinnie predicted, live on camera, that 50 Cent is going to feel a specific kind of way about this. And a specific kind of way, in the Curtis Jackson dictionary, means one thing, a meme. A meme is coming. A meme is inevitable. A meme is being drafted in the group chat as we speak. Because 50 Cent's opening move is never a diss track. 50 Cent's opening move is never a subliminal. 50 Cent's opening move is a meme so surgical, so specifically designed to embarrass, that the target has to spend the next 2 weeks explaining themselves on other people's podcasts, which only recirculates the meme. It is a self-perpetuating humiliation machine, and Curtis Jackson invented the entire genre. Ask Fat Joe. Ask Ja Rule. Ask Rick Ross. Ask Young Buck. Ask Floyd Mayweather. Ask any executive who has ever crossed him. The meme is coming. And the meme is going to be brutal. And China, bless her heart, tried one more angle. China tried that everybody went to those Diddy parties. Everybody knew Diddy defense. And this is where Vinnie put the entire conversation in a headlock and made it tap. Because Vinnie's point was not that everybody knows Diddy. Vinnie's point was that everybody who does know Diddy is doing one of two things right now. Either they are quietly praying that their name never comes up in an unsealed document, or they are publicly co-signing him. There is no third option. And Max B chose option 2. Max B chose the loud option. Max B chose the option that gets you sent a text message from a 917 area code that reads only, "We saw the clip." That is not the option you pick when you just did 18 years and you are trying to keep your record clean. Now here's where the story sharpens into a knife's edge, because I want to walk you through the exact Max B quote one more time, slowly, with the emphasis in the right places, so you understand what Vinnie was actually reacting to. Max B said, and I'm paraphrasing to preserve the flow, but the substance is verbatim, that he speaks to Diddy on the phone, that his people will be there to pick Diddy up when Diddy comes home, and that he does not care what anybody has to say about it. He didn't say if Diddy comes home. He said, when Diddy comes home. That is not a small word choice. That is a linguistic tell. That is Max B publicly assuming a homecoming that federal prosecutors have not yet agreed to. That is Max B forecasting a future the government has not signed off on. And in doing that, Max B has attached his name, his freshly rehabilitated, 16 years in the making name, to an outcome that may never arrive. And if it doesn't arrive, Max B is left holding a phone that only rings one way. Vinnie was not the only one paying attention. The entire G-Unit ecosystem was paying attention. The entire Rick Ross camp was paying attention. Jim Jones, Max B's own long-standing rival, the man Max B has publicly beefed with for the better part of 2 decades, Jim Jones was paying attention. French Montana was paying attention. The New York blogs were paying attention. DJ Academics was paying attention. Whack 100 was paying attention. Every single hip-hop podcast host in a 50-mile radius of Times Square was refreshing their Twitter feeds waiting for the fallout. Because a moment like this doesn't come around every day. A moment like this is a cultural event. And Max B, sitting there on Jason Lee's set, did not seem to fully understand that the cultural event was being detonated with his own words as the fuse. Now flip the page with me one more time, because I want to give you the flip side of this argument in the interest of complete fairness. Because there is a version of this story where Max B is not the villain. There is a version of this story where Max B is simply loyal to an old friend, where the phone calls to Diddy are just phone calls, where the stack of hundreds from Ross is just a homecoming gift, where the whole thing has been blown wildly out of proportion by internet commentary that operates at the speed of light and the depth of a puddle. In that version of the story, Max B is not a chess piece. Max B is not a snitch. Max B is not a compromised legend. Max B is a man doing what men have done for centuries, staying loyal to the people who stayed loyal to him when the cell door was locked. And you know what? That version has weight. That version deserves to be heard. That version might even be true. I want to be honest with you, family. I have gone back and forth on which version I actually believe, and I am still not settled. But watch what happens next, because Vinnie's response to that version was surgical. Vinnie said, "Loyalty is beautiful. Loyalty is a virtue. Loyalty is what separates a real one from a fake one. But loyalty has to be audited. Loyalty has to be examined under the light. Because loyalty without discretion is not loyalty. It is exposure. It is naivete dressed up in a leather jacket. And a man who just did 18 years in federal custody should have a graduate-level understanding of what exposure looks like. Max B should know, better than any of us watching from our couches, that some phone calls are meant to be kept off the microphone. Some homecoming plans are meant to be kept off the podcast circuit. Some stacks of hundreds are meant to stay in the pocket, not narrated in a viral clip. Some receipts are meant to stay filed in the drawer, not framed on the studio wall. And here is the part that made China finally go quiet, because even China, the fiercest Max B defender in the room, could not counter this final blow from Vinnie. Vinnie asked, and I want you to sit with this question for a second because it is the entire thesis of this whole detonation. Vinnie asked, what does Max B owe 50 Cent? What is the debt? Because 50 Cent showed up for Max B at the exact moment when nobody else was returning his calls. 50 Cent threw the bone. 50 Cent extended the hand. 50 Cent said publicly that Max B was one of us. And now Max B, the same Max B who received that public cosign, is on a podcast platform publicly co-signing the two men 50 Cent has spent a decade explicitly naming as opposition. If loyalty is the currency, Max B just took a bag of it from one hand and set fire to a bigger bag with the other. And in the currency of hip-hop, that math does not balance. That math never balances. That math has never balanced for anybody who tried to run it, from Ja Rule to Fat Joe to Rick Ross to Young Buck, and it is not going to start balancing now. Drop your verdict down below where the receipts live, because I need to know where you stand. Do you side with Vinnie, the man saying Max B compromised the code the moment the interview cameras went red? Or do you side with China, the woman saying Max B did 18 years and deserves the grace to say whatever he wants to whoever will listen? Or do you side with a secret third option, the option where Max B knew exactly what he was doing, chose the platform on purpose, chose the words on purpose, chose the timing on purpose, and is running a chess play the rest of us can't see yet because we're too busy watching the pawns move? Because I have to tell you, the more I sit with this interview, the more I believe Max B is not the confused elder we're treating him as. The more I believe Max B is calculating something the rest of the culture hasn't caught up to yet. And if that is true, if Max B is running a play we cannot see, then this entire situation is about to get 10 times more interesting before it gets simpler. Now here is a wrinkle I do not want you to miss, because the mainstream coverage is completely sleeping on this angle. Ty Black. Remember the name Ty Black. Ty Black is the through line. Ty Black is the connective tissue. Ty Black managed Vinnie. Ty Black managed Chinks. Ty Black kept Max B connected to the outside world for the entire 18-year federal stretch. Ty Black is the one person in this entire ecosystem who knows exactly what Max B was told about the industry landscape before he sat down with Jason Lee. And Ty Black, as of the recording of this analysis, has not made a single public statement about the interview. Not one. Silence. And in a culture where silence is louder than a diss track, that silence is telling. That silence is a data point. That silence deserves a full episode of its own. And if you want that episode, you know exactly what to do down in the comment section. Comment Ty Black if you want the deep dive. I read every one. Because here is what I keep circling back to. Max B did not walk onto Jason Lee's platform by accident. Max B was booked. Max B was prepped. Max B was briefed. And the questions Jason Lee asked were not surprises. No professional interview questions ever are. Which means at some point between the booking call and the recording light going on, Max B decided, consciously, deliberately, with full agency, that he was going to publicly co-sign Diddy on camera. He decided he was going to publicly narrate the Rick Ross stack of hundreds on camera. He decided he was going to publicly place himself in a specific corner of the loyalty map. And that decision is either the beginning of a comeback strategy so sophisticated the rest of us haven't decoded it yet, or it is the beginning of a slow-motion career suicide that will play out over the next 12 months in ways that Max B will not be able to walk back. There is no third road here. There is genius, or there is catastrophe. There is no in-between. And Vinnie, the man in the tropical weather, with reindeer running around his grass and dandelions in his yard, chuckling through thunder claps in the background. Vinnie called it before anybody else in the culture had the guts to call it. Vinnie said, out loud, on his own show, on his own platform, that Max B has compromised. Vinnie used that exact word. Compromised. And when a man in Vinnie's position uses that word about a Harlem legend, the word is going to travel. The word is going to metastasize. The word is going to end up in a G-Unit meme by the weekend, in a Jim Jones subliminal by next week, in a French Montana Instagram live by month's end. Because words like that don't stay in one podcast. Words like that echo. Words like that reproduce inside every comment section within a 48-hour blast radius. Words like that reproduce. Words like that become the caption of 1,000 reaction videos before Vinnie has even had his second cup of coffee. Now, and I want to close this out with a piece of context that a lot of the takes floating around the internet are missing. Max B is not a small artist. Max B is not somebody the industry can just quietly disappear. Max B is a legend. Max B invented the wavy aesthetic that every rapper on your Spotify Discover Weekly is currently biting without credit. Max B's fingerprints are on French Montana's entire early catalog. Max B's slang is embedded in the vocabulary of 2 full generations of rappers who came up after him. So when Max B stumbles, If this is in fact a stumble, the stumble reverberates through the whole ecosystem. It is not just a Maxby problem. It is a Harlem problem. It is a hip-hop problem. It is a what does loyalty even mean anymore problem. And that is why Vinnie's rant landed with the weight it did. Because Vinnie was not just yelling at Maxby. Vinnie was yelling at an entire generation of rappers who are watching this play out in real time and quietly asking themselves what they would do if the phone rang. Vinnie was yelling at every rapper who has ever received a Diddy DM. Vinnie was yelling at every rapper who has ever thought about picking up an unknown number from a federal facility. Vinnie was yelling at the entire industry. So where does this leave us? Where does this leave Maxby? Where does this leave 50 Cent, who now has a decision to make about whether the meme drops today, tomorrow, or the weekend? Where does this leave Rick Ross, who is undoubtedly getting texts from every publicist within a 3-block radius of Miami asking him to comment or not comment? Where does this leave Diddy, sitting wherever Diddy is sitting right now, listening to his phone line loyalist get publicly cross-examined by a man in a tropical thunderstorm on YouTube? Where does this leave Jason Lee, who has just booked one of the biggest interview moments of his entire calendar year and is now watching that moment metastasize into a full-blown culture war? Where does this leave us, the ones actually watching, the ones actually paying attention, the ones who understand that this is not just gossip? This is evidence of how the culture actually operates in real time when the cameras are on and the microphones are hot. Where does this leave Jim Jones, who has been waiting patiently for the perfect moment to say the perfect thing about Maxby, and who has just been handed that moment on a silver platter by Maxby himself? Here is my final read, and you are welcome to disagree in the comment section where the receipts live. Maxby walked into that interview a Harlem legend and walked out a moving target. The 50 Cent camp is going to move. The Ross camp is going to whisper. The Diddy camp is going to celebrate. Jim Jones is going to lurk. French Montana is going to smile that specific French Montana smile that means he knows something you don't. And Ty Black, the manager who kept the whole Maxby empire alive during the 18-year federal stretch, is going to have the most important private conversation of his entire career sometime in the next 72 hours. And if you are not tracking every single one of those threads, you are not really watching hip-hop. You are just consuming it. And there is a difference. There is a massive, unbridgeable difference. And the people who understand that difference are the people who end up 2 chess moves ahead of everybody else in the group chat. That is why this channel exists. That is why we sit down and pull these threads apart one by one. Because everybody else is going to give you the headline. Everybody else is going to give you the clip. Everybody else is going to give you the 10-second reaction. But the real story, the story underneath the story, lives in the details that Vinnie surfaced tonight. The Ty Black through line. The 50 Cent early homecoming cosign. The Ross stack of hundreds. The Diddy phone line. The Jason Lee platform choice. The word when instead of if. The tropical thunderstorm in the background of a culture-shifting monologue. These are the details. These are the tells. And these are the reasons the algorithm is about to hand this interview to another 6 million pairs of eyes over the next 48 hours. Whether Maxby wants those eyes or not. Here is what I need you to understand about the mechanics of a 50 Cent response cycle, because we are staring one down. Curtis Jackson does not respond fast. Curtis Jackson responds precise. There is a difference. The delay is the weapon. The silence is the setup. He waits until the target has posted 3 follow-up interviews trying to walk the original statement back, and then he drops the screenshot. He waits until the target's publicist has issued a clarifying statement, and then he drops the meme. He waits until the target's label has released a statement of support, and then he drops the receipt. This is how the pattern has always worked, from the Ja Rule era to the Rick Ross era to the Young Buck era to the Diddy era we are living through right now. And Maxby, God love him, does not appear to have studied the pattern. Which means Maxby is about to become the pattern's next case study. Let me give you the timeline as I see it, because I have watched enough of these cycles to sketch it out with a reasonable degree of confidence. Day 1, today, is silence. Day 2, tomorrow, is the first Curtis Jackson Instagram post. It will not name Maxby. It will simply be a photograph. Maybe a screenshot. Maybe an image so specifically curated that everyone in the culture will know exactly what it means without a single word of caption. Day 3 is the ecosystem reaction. The podcast circuit will spend the entire day dissecting the image. Day 4, Maxby will do a clarifying interview. Day 5, Curtis Jackson will drop the second post, this one with a caption. And by day 7, the meme will have entered the mainstream. That is the arc. That is the choreography. And it starts today, right now, whether Max B has clocked it or not. And I want to give a moment of grace here, because I have to be fair. Max B is not a villain in his own story. Max B is a man who lost 18 years of his life to a federal system that many observers believed handed him a sentence disproportionate to his conviction. Max B is a man who watched his own children grow up through the smudged plexiglass of a visitation room. Max B is a man who lost his mother while incarcerated, who lost friends while incarcerated, who lost a version of himself he will never get back. And now Max B is trying to rebuild a life inside an industry that has replaced its entire moral framework twice over while he was gone. So when I speak about the strategic mistakes Max B may be making, I am not speaking with contempt. I am speaking with concern, because I want to see Max B win. I want to see the comeback arc complete itself. I want the Harlem legend to write the ending we were all rooting for. But you cannot write that ending if you keep handing your enemies the pen. So here is what I need from you before you close this tab. First, drop your verdict in the comment section. Team Vinnie or Team China? Team Max B compromised, or Team Max B is grown and can talk to whoever he wants. I read every comment on the first hour of every upload, and I want to see where the culture is actually landing on this. Second, if you got something out of this breakdown, go ahead and let the algorithm know by hitting that button. You know the one that turns red, because that is what tells the machine to feed this to somebody else who needs to see it. And third, and this is the important one, do not miss the next one, because I already have a follow-up locked and loaded on exactly what happens when 50 Cent finally responds. And I am telling you right now, when 50 Cent responds, it will not be quiet, it will not be subtle, and it will not be forgettable. That drop is coming this week. You do not want to be the last one to see it. Because at the end of the day, this is what hip-hop actually is. It is not the songs. It is not the awards. It is not the Billboard #1s. It is the phone calls. It is the stacks of hundreds. It is the platform choices. It is the words you said on camera when you thought the story was about you, but the story was actually about everybody else in the room. And Max B, a man who did 16 to 18 years in a federal cage for the culture, just gave us the loudest lesson in that principle we have had in a decade. Whether he meant to or not, he handed the culture a mirror. And what we see in that mirror is not going to be pretty for everyone standing in the frame, but it is going to be honest. And in a culture that has traded honesty for engagement for the better part of a decade, honest is a rare commodity. Vinnie saw it first. China felt it in real time. The rest of the culture is about to catch up. And when the meme drops, and it will drop, I want you here. I want you subscribed. I want you in the notification tier. Because when Curtis Jackson picks up his phone and taps out the caption, you're going to want to be the first one in your group chat to send the screenshot. That is the kind of viewer this channel is built for. That is the kind of viewer I am talking to right now. That is the kind of viewer who understands that hip-hop is not a genre. It is a chessboard, and every move is being recorded for a historical record none of us can see yet. That's the whole plate. I'll catch you on the flip. And if you have a hot take, a wild theory, a receipt of your own, or a name I missed, drop it below in the section where the receipts live. Because the story is not over. The story is barely getting started. And I will be here, every single day, every single upload, to make sure you never miss the next detonation. Peace, family. Stay tapped in. Stay wavy. Stay watching. And whatever you do, do not blink. Because in this culture, in this moment, in this exact chapter of hip-hop history, blinking is how you miss the moment that changes everything.